a few seconds. There we go. Hi, hi, Lennart Lopin of the Marscoin Foundation and Mars One candidate. How you doing today?
Good, thanks. Thanks, Heidi. And thanks very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks for being here. So, uh, so I understand you're one of the programmers for Marscoin. How about you tell us about how Marscoin works exactly?
Yes, sure. Yeah, I'm one of the people behind the whole idea, the project of Marscoin. And well, Marscoin is a cryptocurrency just like Bitcoin, very similar to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, the way Bitcoin works is if you think about it, it's like digital money, right? It's like electronic money, which does not need banks or federal banks, no central oversight. So it's directly between people, where people are in charge of their own money and they can send money back and forth between each other in such a way that it's cryptographically secured, right? So it's a very secure form of sending money between different parties over the internet, right? And there's a lot of technological breakthroughs that came with Bitcoin, the invention of Bitcoin. So it's actually pretty amazing from a computer science perspective. That's my background, and I got into it in 2011 and was just following it for a while. And then last year, what happened is there were a lot of projects where people created copies of Bitcoin and created their own little alternative currency universes, if you will. And most of them were just just some fancy, just renaming, rebranding ideas. And so they really didn't get much traction, and Bitcoin still became the main cryptocurrency that it is still today. And at some point, I was thinking that, well, on Mars, obviously, we're not going to have paper money. That was for sure, right? I could not see us even in an obviously not in the first Mars base, but even in a very short period of time, I do believe that people will trade with each other, right, for various reasons. And I could not just imagine that someone would go and just cut out paper. Where would they get the paper from, right? There's no trees on Mars. And then also, when it comes to metal, which is another form of money that we use here on Earth, probably the metal on Mars is going to be used as much as possible for construction purposes, right? And I couldn't see an astronaut walking around with a bag of money on his pocket to trade something. That didn't make any sense. So I think digital currencies are here to stay, and especially in a space environment, especially when we're talking about living off Earth, right? I think a digital resource like a cryptocurrency makes absolute sense to verify ownership, to verify wealth and value, and to transfer it efficiently between parties. So at some point, I thought before someone else comes and takes the idea of Marscoin and makes it into some kind of silly, I don't know, useless little cryptocurrency, I thought, well, why don't we dedicate Marscoin towards something bigger, some kind of really good cause? And that's how Marscoin was born. And when I put the idea out there, immediately a group of people all over the planet kind of found the site, because they were already searching for a Mars-related cryptocurrency. And so we teamed up with a friend in Russia, Canadians, someone in Indonesia, Japan, so all over the planet, and worked together in the coding, testing, and release of the Marscoin cryptocurrency. That was the first of this year. It was January 1st, 2014.
Okay, that sounds good. So I understand you've already done some outreach uh, with doing a talk with the Mars Society and everything. How about you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, that was just a couple of things happened. We got an invitation to a cryptocurrency convention in April to present our project. And another invitation from the Mars Society then for the August Mars Convention of the Mars Society. I mean, the big difference is I think many of these little currencies try to compete with Bitcoin here on Earth, but it's really tough for them because you adopt your one main currency. Bitcoin fulfills most of the necessities, but with Marscoin we're trying to just replicate the idea of Bitcoin on another planet, right? That's the main idea. So if someone, whoever is going to make it to Mars, if they start using a cryptocurrency, that's going to be Marscoin. And so the Mars Society was interested in it because, well, for one, the Mars Society does talk a lot about all the cultural, ethical, and civilizational aspects of the Mars colonization, right? They don't just talk about getting to Mars and the technology that's necessary in engineering. I got a call by Dr. Zubrin, and we were talking. He was interested in trying to understand how cryptocurrencies operate and what that would mean for a space colony on Mars. And so we were invited to give a talk at the Mars Convention. That was a lot of fun. And at the same time, the community got together and created a little donation for the Mars Society and for Mars One, which was part of our whole plan of creating Marscoin. That the initial biggest donation in the beginning, when these cryptocurrencies start, obviously the value is very, very low, and so we tried to get as much coins together to offer them to some of the big players who want to take us to Mars, so that they will benefit over the long term when the currency raises in value potentially, right? Of course. So we got a check for Dr. Zubrin and a check for for Mars One for Bas Lansdorp, and handed those over at the Mars Convention, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, cryptocurrencies are a novel thing. They still are. Many people still don't understand how they operate, right? They think it's just some internet funny money, and it's difficult to wrap your head around the technology actually, that you just can't make the money up right out of thin air, that it's mathematically secured, and but still there's a lot of benefits to it. And we were trying, at least in the talk at the Mars Convention, I was trying to give some of the ideas how the funding of the New World happened, and how money and capital played a big role. Actually, private capital played a big role in colonizing North America. And when we're looking at colonizing Mars, I very much think that for the 21st century, our challenge, right, the 6 months of travel to Mars, the similarity is in the danger of setting up a base camp, which is very similar if you were a European in the 15th century traveling to North America, setting up a base camp, right? You had 50–80% of the population die, right? So a similar challenge for us, I think, is going to Mars, and in the same fashion, 200 years in the future, I mean, the colonization of America was a huge stepping stone for the development of our world. And so similarly, I think these challenges would be have a profound impact on mankind. We're very, very helpful on a lot of different levels. And then so I was looking at the capital that private people raised in the 15th, 16th, 17th century in order to set up these first settlements in North America. That something similar can be done for Mars. And now we're talking about a global population, closer and closer connected with each other. One problem, of course, is that most of our national currencies are inflationary, and so the value that people create with their labor is basically inflated away. But if you had something more stable like cryptocurrency, and you would spread it over the globe, then if people invest into it, you could think that this kind of hard money would allow certain investments over the long period of time, of course, that appreciate, and with this appreciation, make it easier to begin settlement of Mars. But of course, at this point, it's conceptual, right? It's a theory. It's in its early beginnings, so we just started. But at least the plan is out there, and the Mars Society got a little presentation on the idea.
Cool. So So I understand you're a Mars One candidate too. How about you tell us a little about how you became involved with Mars One?
Yeah, obviously it's similar to your history, looking at the picture in your background, right? I had a fascination for space ever since I was I can remember as a young boy, and I was very, very convinced that I would be an astronaut, working for NASA one day. That was like, biggest dream. But the space program didn't really keep up with my desire to go to space, and so eventually, I did all kinds of other things. But it's something which stayed with me, and so I was following space very closely, and especially the after 2000, some of the new private ideas into commercial space, right? I found that very fascinating. I thought, well, maybe something is finally moving, and suddenly, following all these blogs, suddenly Mars One's email popped into my inbox, right? Or I saw the website or some link. And immediately when I saw the website, I just read the first paragraph, and I signed up. There was no question. Okay, there was no. I didn't have to go back and think about it. It was so natural, as if I don't know, if you drink water. Okay, do you want to go to Mars? Of course, I do want to go to Mars, right? Would you care if this is just a one-way ticket? No, I always wanted to leave this rock, and please get me off of it, right? So it was a very natural decision, and yeah, and ever since then, life has been a little different.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and yeah, so how do you think Marscoin will fit into yeah, the future of Mars colonization with the development of interplanetary trade?
Yeah, that's a very good topic, and I know you're quite interested in especially the interplanetary aspects too. Now, at one of the presentations, the one in New York, I kind of talked about this a little bit, and there's a difficulty with the distance, right? And that's why Marscoin actually makes sense, because you can't use Bitcoin on Mars. The distance is too far. So the communication, Bitcoin is based on a network, right, a computing network, and certain communication between the different participants, the peers in the network, have to happen in a certain period of time. Otherwise, the network doesn't operate. And Mars is just too far. The speed of light. Einstein is throwing us a curveball here, right? So you can't connect to you could connect to the Bitcoin network, but it would not function, and it would make it really, really hard for you to buy a cup of coffee. So, but running a second network, a new network called Marscoin, for instance, on Mars, would make it very, very easy on any part of the planet, even including the moons, to purchase something and to verify your purchase or your trade within seconds, within milliseconds. And now the question remains, what if you want to transfer wealth between the planets, right? And while we were developing Marscoin, actually, a lot of interesting people came up with various theories how you could actually mesh these two networks together. And one idea I liked a lot, there's actually, as far as I understand, currently there's two proposals out there how this could work, but there might be more, but two that I'm aware of. One, for instance, is that you have a network, a very slow Bitcoin, similar to Marscoin and Bitcoin, a network in between, let's say a couple of satellites, for instance. But all they do is they verify transactions in a very, very long period of time, let's say over days or weeks. So when you leave Earth, you would convert your wealth, whatever it is that you want to take to Mars, into this interplanetary coin, this interplanetary network. It would verify that the transaction took place, and then while you travel, several verifications will happen, and then once you are on Mars, on the Mars side of things, the interplanetary network will have confirmed that this wealth was actually received, or this value was received, and it will translate into the Marscoin, corresponding Marscoin value. Obviously, there will be exchanges, and so that way you bridge the time difference between the two planets. It is instantaneously on Earth, it's instantaneous on Mars, but in between, basically, it takes much, much longer, and you would have no problem. Of course, you would not be able to, let's say, buy a cup of tea for your nephew on Earth from Mars, right? With this proposal. But there's another one where you have actually two networks, and this is a little bit more intricate, and I'm not going to go into details, but the idea was that you have two networks, a Bitcoin and Marscoin network on Earth and on Mars. They kind of mirror each other. And so you have certain exchanges that once in a while will update their exchange information with each other, and so that local trades get reflected on both sides. But that's, you know, there's problems with it, and that's just an idea that was proposed. And there might be other ideas out there, but definitely digital currencies, electronic currencies, give you opportunities or ways that you can trade with each other in an interplanetary and off-Earth perspective that otherwise with traditional means like gold coins or well, raw materials would probably work too, but they're clumsy, of course, would make it much easier than paper money, definitely. And you need no central authority. I think that's key.
Okay. That's about all I have. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Lynn?
No, thanks very much actually for letting me talk a little bit about Marscoin. And if people want to check out Marscoin and the Marscoin Foundation, our website is marscoin.org and marscoinfoundation.org, and all the information is on there, and you can download the program. There's all kinds of applications, even online, where you can start using Marscoin.
Okay. Thanks, Lennart. I'll see you later.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks a lot. Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you.
Heidi, and good luck with the interviews.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.